All right. Hello. Welcome. My name is Chris McDonald. I am the science specialist here at the TCC Learning Commons, and I've been to TCC before. Welcome back. If this is your first semester, welcome to TCC. Please take advantage of the Learning Commons. We're a wonderful resource. We have a ton of different resources we take advantage of. That's the first part of what my boot camp here is going to be about. Is kind of all about us. Get my plug in. A lot of people don't know about us right off the bat and wish I had known about you earlier, especially with anatomy and physiology. All right, so with that, I'm going to get rid of my face here. All right. So this is the boot camp for BSC 2085. This is for the lecture. A lot of what I actually offer during the semester is based around the lab. We have an entire A&P room, but I love helping out with lecture. It's been a minute since I've taught it, maybe about a year, but I really like teaching it, tutoring it, and we have a bunch of tutors here who have either been through it or in nursing school or gone to med school or something like that. So we got a lot of talented tutors. Anyways, let me actually get to it. So about the Learning Commons itself, we've got kind of two different areas. We're a two-story building. We're kind of over near the corner of Appleyard and Pensacola, a little ways down, a little bit closer to Tennessee, but we've got these big white columns, very classic looking building, very academic looking, so kind of hard to miss. And we are split into two floors. The top is more communications and writing, but that's actually where I have my anatomy and physiology room. It's a wonderful place to study, to look at models, and to take advantage of. And then there's also downstairs tutoring for anything math and science related, but still, I mean, you can get science tutoring in the anatomy and physiology room. This is for physical tutoring, face-to-face, which we're going to be doing more of this fall, clearly. We have been doing a lot of online tutoring, either through Zoom or through a platform called GoBoard, which gives us access to this Blackboard, has just different capabilities. Personally, I like it, but different tutors vary on what they like. But we have multiple modalities to try to meet you where you are at, okay? We have computers that you can use here if you don't have easy access at home or want to stick around at school and study and use a computer while here. Don't have a laptop maybe, like you have a desktop at home. We have tech support. In a way, it's slightly limited. We have our tech specialist who is here full-time. He's usually here like 7:30 to 4 or 5-ish every day, something along those lines. So he's kind of an early bird, but he's really helpful. We've got not so much study rooms anymore. I tried to look over these slides before I put them up here. You'd have to go over to the library for study rooms, but that's right next door, okay? I mean, you can see right here, LC library, like right next to door to each other. I'm going to be offering different workshops. This boot camp is for anatomy and physiology, but we do workshops for, I do workshops for different chemistry courses. I'm going to do practicals for the A&P lab. We've got a ton of math workshops, ton of writing, communications workshops. You just got to get familiar with that. A bunch of resource guides, handouts, both physically and online, that you can take advantage of. And then we've got success coaching, which Sam DeZerga is our specialist, our full-time specialist, but we have a lot of coaches as well. These all help work with you to find different ways to help you maximize chances for success. Different, stress management strategies, reducing test anxiety, time management, work-life balance. I just think anybody can glean something from working with them. It's a valuable resource that I wish, or maybe I had when I was in college, but I just wasn't aware of it. All right, anyways. So our normal hours of operation are Monday through Thursday, 7:30 to 7:30. This doesn't mean come in at 7:30 and get service. Like, try to, get here by 7. We start cleaning up, but, we still want to help you out. It's just that sometimes multiple people come in at 7 and you might show up and not be able to get help. And even if you come a little bit early, but I'm just saying that I really want to be able to help you. We all want to be able to help you. Just be aware of what these hours mean. And then 7:30 to 5 on Friday. First floor, we got math and science tutors that can help. So I'm science, chemistry, physics, earth science, like oceanography, astronomy, environmental science, geology, and then the different biology subjects. And we've got math tutors that can take care of math of all levels. We're a little limited on the business, economics, accounting, financial stuff right now, but we are looking to hire some new tutors in that. It's just circa me making this video. We have some tutors who are talented with it, but that's not their kind of primary thing. Okay, so biological sciences, kind of like you go downstairs for like the harder, like more physical sciences, like physics or chemistry. But then, in a way, you go upstairs to the A&P room for more of the softer, quote unquote, or like life sciences, like biology, anatomy and physiology, microbiology, nutrition, and then yes, on the psychology, but what a lot of people actually get help with in psychology is writing. And so you're in the perfect place for writing on the second floor, because that's where all our writing specialists and tutors are. Okay, pretty much what I just stated. Second floor takes care of reading support, language skills, writing, technology as well. So, this is grammar, this is reading, the language skills, this is with English, we've got Spanish, we've got French, it's whatever you need help with, okay? I don't know as much about the reading, writing support, so I'm just going to kind of blast through this stuff for the sake of time, but I do want to make you aware that we have all this, and they are wonderful resources, okay? Suggestion for any conference, regardless of subject, is come ideally well before the assignment due date. This doesn't mean don't come if it's getting close to your due date, but when I say well before, don't come like 30 minutes before it's due and say, I have 30 minutes to get this done, help me. Ooh, buddy, that'll be fun. Okay, be prepared to focus on the process instead of the product. Sometimes, especially in these situations where it can be a little anxious, as you want to get the answer and you're coming in to try to get the answer. And sometimes what we want to work on is making sure that what you do is repeatable. Not that we won't help you to get the answer, but just be aware that we're trying to set you up for success once you leave. Okay, bring assignment sheet, any other relevant handouts, notes, laptop, Chromebook, the book itself, whatever. Okay, the more resources you have, the better, and the easier it is for us to help you out. So the tech support can help with basic computer functions, like anybody can do this. TC email, Passport, Canvas, OneDrive. A lot of the problems that you're going to run into early in the semester are going to be with access to different textbooks and with Canvas and courses and so on, and we can help with any of that. We have, we can't help you with like your password. If you don't remember your password, you got to go to IT. Okay, so that's a big one. Honor lock testing, we do have a room that's designated for honor lock. We have computers in there. It's an isolated, quiet room. So I do honor lock in there. It's on the first floor. Every student starts the semester with $4 of printing credit, and we have the computer set up so that you can very easily use what's called Eagle Print to print from our printers. With A&P, very easy to blow through this account very quickly. There are ways to add money to it, but just be aware that if you're using that, that you only, quote unquote, have $4. Okay. Got a variety of websites. We've got the Learning Commons online. We switched away from something that used to be called the Virtual Learning Commons, which still is out there, but I would not go looking for it. It's really just not intuitive. We went through this whole process to make this really beautiful looking site, and so we really want you to try to take advantage of that. I'll just click on it real quick. Okay, hopefully it pulls up. Pull it from my dual screen over here. So this is going directly to my science page, but technically if we had gone like to the Learning Commons page, and then I went through tutoring resources, and then very clearly science, and then you can click on this button to sign up for an online conference. I have a ton of different resources for different courses. So you see, not as many with 2085 lecture. That's just because we get a lot of the work we do is with labs. So we got a ton of resources with the lab by comparison. Okay, I need to check. I feel like I have more than this. This is for healthcare professions. This is just some resources that provide to them. A lot of this is like second semester stuff. Okay, some biology resources, chemistry or science, physics, so on. Okay, and then a calendar down at the bottom of different events I'm doing. You can see here some facilitated study groups that I did. I'm going to be trying to get those rolling. They're going to be kind of these student-led groups. I encourage you to get your own study groups together, but I'm also going to try to provide times where maybe people that don't already have groups together to come to the Learning Commons and study with each other. Just kind of a student-led thing with a tutor available. Okay, not really like a review lesson necessarily. I mean, maybe some tutoring, definitely some tutoring will occur, but more of just we've got the space and we've got the resources, and want to make sure that, and study groups are a wonderful thing for any of the courses, especially anatomy and physiology. Okay, all right, so got a link to the web page, and then to my resources, link to actually there's a PDF to show you how to access EagleQ, which is our system that you have to go into if you want to sign up for virtual tutoring, and then you'll get a phone call asking if you're in person or online, and then we'll send you a link via email to your Outlook email, not to your Canvas. So always make sure to check your Outlook, and then we'll get hooked up. The first time is always most difficult, but then after that it makes it a lot easier. With writing, if you submit something for writing, you can submit it kind of after hours, and writing specialists will look at it next day. I mean, if you submit it over the weekend, maybe not on Monday. But smart thinking also, you have like a couple hours of tutoring with a non-TC tutor in case you really desperately need some tutoring outside of the hours that we offer it. And then I'm going to be, like I mentioned before, offering a variety of workshops and reviews. I don't know about for 2085 quite yet. I haven't developed those, but I do have practice practicals for 2085 and 2086 lab. And then if you're in general chemistry, I have some reviews for that. Okay, variety of different social media presences. This is me. Just picture me, my name, what I am, my email, my office phone. Email me. I'm in the office, but it just seems like I'm never in the office when anybody calls me, and so I end up doing this phone tag when email is so much easier, and I can sometimes answer it after hours. Okay. If you got more generic questions, you can always call our more general number, our reception desk, or email us at learningcommons@tc.fl.edu. And we really want to see you in here. Trust me. Okay. Seems like there's this philosophy that there's something wrong if you come in for tutoring, but it's quite the opposite. Tutoring shows a mature approach to going after a class, and it shows not even necessarily a lack of ego, but it shows the presence of mind to try to maximize your chances to succeed. Everybody can take advantage of some tutoring or resources or the success coaches or something like that. Okay, so with that said, we can move into the academic portion of this. Okay, so let's go over the material itself for 2085. Okay, so one of the first things that you're going to see is a little bit of either a review or an introduction to basic chemistry. Now, it's not too in-depth, but the way that 2085 works is we're kind of going from the atomic level and then up to the molecular, and then we want to get to the cellular level, and then we move up into tissue level, organ system, and so on. So, but in order to kind of understand those higher levels of organization, we want to start with the chemical level. And so one of the first things that you're going to see, and which can be a tricky thing for a lot of people, is some of this, the chemistry related concepts. Okay, so kind of this pre-test, this is something that I'll review at the end after I've gone over all of this. And I might actually open up a different resource while I'm doing this so that I have a whiteboard available. I didn't think about that before. I'm asking, what is the atomic number of carbon? Okay, what is the mass number of carbon? And then what kind of bond is in NaCl? Not necessarily expected to know these. Okay, we're going to go over this and then we're going to come back to it at the end. Okay, but if you can, go over this, try to answer this, and then come back. Okay. All right, so first thing, what is an atom? Atom is the most basic unit of organization. Okay, it consists of 3 subatomic particles: the electron, neutron, and the proton. Okay, so the nucleus of the atom consists of the neutron and the proton. You can see they are a lot larger than the electron. All right, proton and neutron in the center, making up the nucleus, and then the electron, that very tiny, very hard to track down the electron, so we have what we call an electron cloud around the outside. Okay. So 2 different numbers that you're going to see: the atomic number and the mass number. All right, now these were asked about in the pretest. Okay, the atomic number is always equal to the number of protons in each atom. Okay, and in a standard element, this is going to be equal to the number of electrons. The mass number, slightly different. This is equal to the number of the protons plus the number of neutrons. Okay, so this is number of all the subatomic particles that form the nucleus. This is a periodic table. You can see we have hydrogen as 1, helium is 2, lithium is 3, beryllium is 4. Now, each of these, that's referring to the atomic number. You change the number of protons, you change the element, and you change the atomic number. Okay, so as the atomic number changes, the element changes. Boron, atomic number of 5, aluminum, 13, so on. Okay, but you can change the mass number without changing the element. Think about that. So what was it that made up the mass number. Mass number was made up of the number of protons plus the number of neutrons. If you change the number of neutrons, you can change the mass number without changing the element. Okay? So this is, let me see if I can I go back? Yeah, and I want to zoom in to right here. Okay, good. I'm glad this is a high quality image. So, we can see right here that carbon has an atomic number of 6. Then underneath, we have what's called the atomic mass. Now, this is the average mass of all atoms, of all carbon atoms. You can change the mass number by changing the number of neutrons. You may hear of carbon 12, you might hear of carbon 14 or carbon 13. These are all, they all have the same number of protons, but they have a different number of neutrons. Therefore, they have a different mass number. And so the average of all of these atomic masses of all the carbon atoms that exist is what we call the atomic mass right here. This is one of the trickier things for people to understand sometimes, okay, is that the mass number of carbon is not always going to be 12, okay? It's just that that's the most common, or that's the average, okay? So in this case, carbon generally, like carbon 12 is going to have 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Carbon 13 would have 6 protons and 7 neutrons, all right? Now, when we change the mass number, that's something called an isotope, I-S-O-T-O-P-E, okay? You change the number of protons, 5, 6, 7, change the atomic number, you change the element. Change the number of neutrons, you're changing the mass number, and you are then are changing the isotope. Third option, remember what was that third subatomic particle? It was electrons, okay? So, electrons, if you change the number of electrons, you then get an ion, okay? And it's still the same element, it just has a different charge, okay? It might have a negative or positive charge. That's called an ion, all right? When you change the number of electrons. Remember, a standard element has the same number of protons and electrons. So carbon would have 6 electrons. Nitrogen would have 7 electrons. However, if we said, like, let me see if I can scroll over here. So hydrogen has 1 proton and 1 electron. Now H plus, if it had a charge of +1, that means that we have gotten rid of 1 electron because electrons have a negative charge. So H plus would have 1 proton, it would have 0 electrons, and then if we weren't given the number of neutrons, we would have to assume that the atomic mass is equal to the mass number, and so we would actually say 0 neutrons, okay? If we are given the mass number, if we were given mass number of 2, then we could say, oh, okay, there's actually 1 neutron. If we were given a mass number of 3, then we'd say, okay, there's 2 neutrons, okay? I think I said that right. I feel like I misspoke on one of them, that if it's a mass number of 2, then there's 1 neutron. If it's a mass number of 3, then there's 2 neutrons, okay? Like right here, if we weren't given the mass number, if we just have to work with the atomic mass, then we would say there's 3 protons, 3 electrons, and 4 neutrons. If we're given if we are given the mass number and it's 8, then we could say there's 3 protons, 5 neutrons, and 3 electrons. If we're given mass number of 7 and we're told that this is Li2 plus, then what is that? Is that a different element, a different isotope, or a different ion? So it's a different ion, okay? And so that ion has a different number of what? Protons, neutrons, or electrons. It has a different number of electrons. So it has 2 less electrons. So there's actually going to be 3 protons, 1 electron, and 4 neutrons if that mass number is 7 and the charge is +2. Okay? So we went over this. Reading the periodic table, you can see the atomic number on top, the elemental symbol, and the atomic mass, which in the absence of being given the mass number, we use that as the mass number, but often what you're going to see when you're in class, you're actually going to be given the mass number, you'll be given the number of neutrons, okay? So in the human body, there are, we do have a lot of elements in the human body, okay, or in a lot of organs, but within the human body, the primary elements that we see are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. Okay? Now this can be a tricky one because the one that people sometimes think of is calcium. Okay? Calcium is actually 5th, and so there is a lot, but there's not as much as hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. Okay? And little trace amounts of everything else. Okay? Bonds. You're going to run into 2 different types of bonds, ionic and covalent bonds. Those are going to be the bonds that really are going to be the most important, most likely for you to run into in lecture. Okay? And actually, what I want to do is going to end the show real quick, and I'm going to add a blank slide because I want to use this as a whiteboard. Okay, promise you it's going to work. So the first bond right here, ionic bonds. We'll talk about ionic bonds and we'll talk about covalent bonds. In VidGrid, which is what I'm using to record this, luckily has an annotation tool. All right, so ionic bonds. This is when we have 2 different elements that are bonding together, and then one of those atoms is going to steal an electron or take an electron from the other. With covalent bonds, they share electrons. There's something called the octet rule. O-C-T-E-T. Okay? Octet. Now, oct, what number do you think of when you see oct? O-C-T. Number, not month. So 8. Okay, oct, we're thinking 8. What it means is that all elements, well, all atoms except hydrogen, hydrogen is unique, want to have 8 electrons, what you call the outer shell. Okay? So let's use, what do I want to use? What elements? So, NaCl is an easy one. Okay? Which is also known as what? Table salt. So Na, I'm going to open up my chemistry book so that I have the periodic table in front of me and I'm not having to switch back and forth between it while I'm talking to you. So Na is going to have how many electrons? Like we already went over how to figure out the number of electrons. I'm looking at Na. It has an atomic number of 11. It has an atomic mass of 23. So we're working with kind of a standard or most common Na molecule, which would have then 12 neutrons, but we don't care about neutrons right now. We care about electrons. So we have 11 electrons. Something seems off. Oh, okay, yes, 11 electrons. Because the first electron shell, now we have different shells that I'm going to represent by these circles that have electrons in them. The first shell has 2. Okay, that's no matter what the element or the atom is. It always has 2 electrons in that first shell. The second shell is going to have up to 8. This is where our octet rule comes into place. Okay, so remember, sodium has 11 electrons to place into shells. So 2, then we put 8 into the next level. 2, 4, 6, 8. So we're up to how many electrons? 10. We're going to have one more in the last shell. Okay? So 1 electron. The other atom that we're looking at is Cl. Now I'm referring to my periodic table, and I look, and I see that Cl has an atomic number of 17, so 17 protons. I'm not having to work with neutrons, but just for review, looking at it, it's 35.45. So we really need to know what the mass number or the number of neutrons is there. We can't make a speculation, okay? It'll probably be 18 or 19, all right, because it's right in the middle. That doesn't matter. What matters is number of electrons, which is equal to number of protons in a neutral atom. So we have 17 electrons to place. First shell always has 2. This is why, remember I mentioned hydrogen only needs 2. Hydrogen's atomic number is 1. So it only deals with that first shell. And then helium, technically, same thing, but you're not going to run into helium with anything that you're working with, okay? At least in 2085. So we got 2, and then we'll take the time just to draw these in, just so we have the proper visual, all right? 2, 4, 6, 8. I should pull that down a little bit. So we're at 10. We have 7 more. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay. Now remember, octet rule. Each of these elements likes to have 8 electrons in its outer shell. This one has 1 electron in its outer shell. Cl has 7. Okay, what do you think is going to be easier? For 7 electrons to be pulled from Cl over to Na, or for 1 electron to be pulled from Na over to Cl? As you're thinking, as you know, it's going to be easier for 1 electron from Na to get pulled over to Cl. Okay? And so what happens is then, say we have a full octet here, and then this last shell becomes empty, so the last shell of Na is 8, has 8 electrons in it. And now we have this ionic bond that has formed. An ionic bond is always going to be between a metal and a nonmetal, and a covalent bond will always be between a metal or a nonmetal and a nonmetal. Okay, I'm just going to write NM for nonmetal. Okay. Okay, can I undo that? Nope. That's okay. Oh, there we go. Nice. All right, so apparently the eraser erases everything. Good to know. All right, so metal, nonmetal is ionic. So I am limited with my annotation, but I'll still try to be good here. Okay, and then nonmetal to nonmetal be covalent. Now, how do you know if something's a metal versus a nonmetal? I'll come back to that in a moment, just because I want to make sure that I refer to things while we're on this picture here. Okay, so we got the ionic bond. Ionic bond have 1 electron that is taken, stolen, essentially, or transferred from one atom to the other. And we form NaCl, okay, NaCl, with this ionic bond between Na, which is a metal, and Cl, which is a nonmetal. Okay, I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you the covalent bond as well. All right. Usually, or you can ask me questions about this. I provide you my email so that you can get in touch with me, get in touch with your teacher, whatever. You have a ton of different resources. Please take advantage. Okay, so get out of annotation mode here, and okay, I want to go back to the periodic table. How far back do I have to go? That is the question. This one. All right. So looking at the periodic table, let me state here, we have stair step right here. Everything to the right of this stair step is a non-metal. Okay. Non-metals to the right. Everything else is a metal. So Na, over on the far left side, we see Na right here, metal, binding with Cl, which is a nonmetal. So nonmetal to metal, that is an ionic bond. Nonmetal to nonmetal, covalent. So like CO2, which is going to be the atom I'm going to look at when I show you an example of a covalent bond. C and O, two nonmetals, so a covalent bond. Now you're going to ask, well, what about metal to metal? It's called metallic bond. Not going to dig into that. You really won't even dig into it if you take Chem 1045 or Chem 1046. It'll just be referenced to because that's a little higher level chemistry, okay, that you don't need to worry about. Two really that we're going to worry about are ionic bonds and covalent, okay? So let's look at an example of covalent bond. I told you we'd do CO2. So carbon, and then oxygen, and oxygen. So carbon has an atomic number of 6, so 6 electrons, okay? We're going to skip a step here. We know that there are 2 electrons in that first shell, and then that means that there are 4 left. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 electrons in the outer shell of carbon, okay? And we want to have how many? That's correct. We want to have 8, okay? Oxygen, atomic number of 8. So there's 2 in the first shell and 6 in the outer shell. Again, it wants to have 8, okay? Same thing over here. So with covalent bonds, the electrons are shared. They are not taken from one to the other. They are shared, okay? So we'll take 1 electron from each, pull them down to form a bond, okay? And then take 1 electron from each, pull them down to form a bond, okay? So at this point, we have this bond right here. We have this bond right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that we can say are belonging to oxygen in a way, since these 2 are shared, okay? Same thing over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 electrons for oxygen. This is not good enough. And then we'll look at carbon just for consistency. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with carbon. Remember, these 2 electrons got pulled down. They're not here anymore, okay? They're down as part of the bond. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what we want to do next is now pull another set of electrons. We are going to form a double bond. How about that? Isn't that exciting? So now I'm going to do the same thing with each oxygen. So I'm going to try to draw you something that's a lot cleaner looking after I show you the process, okay? So 1 electron here, 1 electron, 1 electron, 1 electron. Technically, these are being shared. And then 1, 1, 1, 1. Every bond consists of 2 electrons. Then we had, what, 4 that were left in oxygen. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And all of them were taken from carbon, okay? And 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's check if we're good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for oxygen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for oxygen. Then carbon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So, they are good. Covalent bonds between nonmetals. So the electrons are being shared. Okay? Covalent, they're sharing electrons. Ionic, there's a transfer of electrons. All right? So Told you we would look at the answers. What's the atomic number of carbon? Pretty much already told you. It's 6. The mass number of carbon. Now this is, you have to assume this using the atomic mass, and it's going to be 12, which means there's how many neutrons? 6 neutrons and 6 electrons. The kind of bond that's in NaCl, it's an ionic bond. So, know the challenges. In BSC 2085, there are no prereqs. A lot of people think, a lot of teachers think that there should be. It's a tough course, okay? A lot of y'all want to go into healthcare professions, and this is one of your first weed out courses, okay? Of course, we want as many people succeed to get A's, B's, C's as possible, but it's a team effort, okay? So there's a lot of material to read. Some of the material, especially with the lab, it's just can end up just being a lot of memorization, a lot of vocabulary, and you got to get through the material, okay? And once you get through it, it starts to make a little more sense, but you got to get through it the first time. It's almost like learning a new language, okay? There's a lot of new content that you've never seen before, okay? There's time commitment. You can easily get distracted. Inefficient study strategy. So there's kind of 2 different things that I tell my students. There are study strategies and study habits, okay? You can sit in front of your computer or your book for hours on end and get nothing out of it because maybe you're getting distracted, maybe you're not reading right, maybe you're not taking the right notes, okay? So figure out what works for you in terms of strategy, all right? Now then, there's habits. You need to actually get in front of your book or your computer, okay, in order to initiate or engage in those study strategies, okay? It often seems like there's some people that are very good with study habits, but then they don't always know what to do while they're studying. And then some people who don't have the best habits, and so in order to succeed, they've had to figure out some good study strategies by cramming a lot. I'm not saying that strategies that you get from cramming are good, but sometimes you may have figured some things out. And so it's the integration of both of those, of the proper study strategies and study habits, that is going to help you succeed. So kind of figure out what you're strong and weak at, and then we can work with you. Any of the specialists, any of the tutors, success specialist can help work with you on that. Poor test taking skills. Sometimes you do everything right with study strategy, with study habits, but then you get into the test and maybe you get stuck on one question and you just get focused on that, okay? You got to move on. So that can be a big challenge, okay? There are a lot of test taking skills, okay? Recognizing different questions that maybe are there not to trick you, but that can be misleading and that can affect your confidence. So, it sounds dumb, but like go with your gut, all right? These are general, it's kind of more of just a general type of advice, okay? Anxiety can affect you in a number of ways. It can get in the way of your study efforts. It can get in the way of your test-taking abilities. There's a million ways that anxiety can affect you, okay? And then post-midterm invisible syndrome. This is kind of something made up, but it's this idea that after the midterm, a lot of people kind of fade out a little bit. Now, we're going to see how things go with online courses, with Zoom and all this. But sometimes people kind of fade out with, there are different populations. There's some people who did really well and they kind of fade out, and then all of a sudden their grades go down because they thought they had built enough of buffer, but they didn't stay consistent. There are sometimes people who drop the class, okay? Now, you're not going to see this as much of like actually seeing your classmates leaving, but because there's not same prereq, sometimes people realize they are in over their head and have to withdraw, at least for the class, for the semester, okay? So it's something that's common. We're working on trying to make sure that as many students succeed as possible. But it is a real thing that 2085 does not have prerequisites, and sometimes you come in not understanding what is required of you, and so you might see some people disappear. That's kind of what that means. Okay? So this is a strategy. Okay, you know your strategy the best, but and come up with something that works for you. But step one is reading and studying every day, even just for a little bit. This is that study habit. Making flashcards. If that works for you, that's going to be good for memorization type things. Okay, maybe talk about the material. Write it out. Try to teach it to somebody else. That's ultimately the goal you want to get to, is to try to be able to teach this material to somebody else. Okay, piecemeal method. Kind of come up with short-term goals for yourself that can help you reach a long-term goal. Dedicated time and location. This helps keep you consistent. You then have associations of productivity with this time and location. Eventually, maybe the time and location might kind of fizzle out. You can switch it up, but at least, try to find something so that you get that association. Like, train yourself, okay? Test yourself, test others, figure out, try to think, what are ways that the teacher might ask questions about this? Come up with questions for yourself. Review your flashcards. Go over homework questions. Honestly, try to trick yourself as much as possible before the exam, okay? It's better to be a little more worried before the exam. Try to come up with different ways that you might be tested. Especially, please talk to your teacher. Take advantage of office hours, okay? They write the test. They know what's best for you in their class. Communicate with them. I promise you they want you to succeed, and they really want you to come and talk to them and show them that you are excited about the class, that you want to succeed. Ask them, what can I do? Okay? Not what's on the test, but ask, what can I do? How can I best prepare? And they definitely want to work with you. Okay? Come to the Learning Commons, working in groups. Okay? By coming to Learning Commons, either come to our physical space or come to us online. We have both available. Okay? And then review, and be confident. Okay? Sometimes I have students who, they study well, they know everything in class, and all of a sudden they come in and they doubt themselves. They take too much time on tests and they start changing things. If you have followed all these guidelines and you have studied and gone over things, be confident in yourself. Okay? It's easier said than done. Especially saying relax when you are stressed out about something. Okay? Like it says here, you made it. You got this. All right? All right, and that's that. Like other me said here, please get in touch with me. I will bring up that slide that has my contact info one more time, get this out of the way. So please email me, give me a phone call, whatever. Email's the best, because I'm not always in my office. I try to be, though. And, I can at least direct you in the right direction, give you some sort of input, but we're here to help you out. All right? So hopefully this has been a helpful session for you, and I look forward to seeing or hearing from you.